Yo, yo, yo. How y'all doing today on this beautiful Sunday? It's 7 o'clock. And guess what? I'm on time today. I am on time. So we are live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's right. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Got a couple people already from Instagram joining. Hey, how y'all doing? Give me just a minute. We are going to run this intro. Hey, Shay. And then we are going to be with you in a moment.
Determination to change the nation, I'm manifesting the truth. Back in the booth to give you the messages that's been channeling right through me. No, I'm not Jesus, although my spirit is great. I'm eating my food without a plate, escaping this place through my meditations. New life begun when I reloaded the gun and realized where I was from was not too far from the sun. Like somewhere close by the moon. Now I'm connected like Zoom. On walks of life that ever lived call me like out of the blue. So I just pass it to you, right through your speakers with clues. And if you choose to free your mind, then you will have all the tools. But I can't make you take it and shake it and mentally break yourself out. Cause freeing your mind without a doubt is something you have to try out. But once you see the light, your might, and all the power you've had, then you have reached the fifth dimension and you can brighten your path. But others who choose to follow the red pills, it's harder to swallow. Or you can wallow in your sorrows, feeling all empty and hollow. The only way you'll see the truth is if it's starting with you. So please stop lying to yourself, start being truthful to you. The only way you'll see the truth is if it's starting with you. So please stop lying to yourself, start being truthful to you, to you.
Yo, 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 yo. What's happening? Man, 16 people, you already done jumped on. I appreciate it. Hey, Shay, Miss Dortch, Michelle Moreno, of course, that's the gangster right there. Autumn, what's going on? Yeah. So we live today. I do have a special guest joining me. Actually, two special guests. Y'all ain't know, huh? Yeah, so the first special guest is my brother Jakeen. Let me go ahead and pop him on in here. Let's see here. There you go. What's
There
going
it
on,
is.
bro? Let me even us out so it don't look like my big old head is taking up the whole screen.
That would be the truth.
All right, let me see. Oh, no, not maximize. Minimize. All right, there we go. There you go. All right, so yeah, that's the first special guest I got joining me. And before we get to the second special guest, I want to take a moment briefly to say a moment of silence. Well, not say a moment of silence, to have a moment of silence for brother Billy Alcorn. Now, if y'all don't know, Billy Alcorn was the 74-year-old brother that died Tuesday. He was hit by a car in traffic on I-80. What the news don't tell you, and this is why me and Jakeen is here today. What the news don't tell you is that Mr. Alcorn was released from the county jail and he had dementia. Okay. They knew he had dementia. They were giving him his meds in the county jail, and they were supposed to wait for his family to pick him up. And what they did was just let him out the building and put him out on the front steps without waiting for his family. Brother Billy with dementia wandered away from the jail, ended up on 60th and ran into traffic, and he got hit by a car and passed away. Okay, so we're going to have a brief moment of silence for Brother Billy. Whoo, man. Yes. because after that silence comes the anger, comes the accountability. Okay. And so we're going to be addressing that later on this week. But I do want to bring on my second special guest. Come on in here. She's live in the studio, by the way. Have a seat right here. Yep, there we go. We done added a little sunshine. My granddaughter. Scoot on over a little bit to make sure they can see you. Yeah, yeah. So she's here because she heard Jakeen was going to be on the show. And she was like, I remember him from the Sunday. I said, yeah, that's the same guy. So I pulled up the flyer just so she could see. And so, hey, y'all say hi to Soraya. Here's your mic. And so she had a couple questions for Jakeen right away. So I'm going to let her get her questions out the way. See, look, Michelle said, my baby. Oh, yep. So I'm gonna let her get her questions out the way first, and then we'll jump into our dialogue, Jakeen, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Miss Soraya, it's all you.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Hey, Jakeen. Thanks for being a guest speaker during the 20 weeks.
All right, all right.
Well, I appreciate the appreciation. Yeah, it was my pleasure to talk to you all during those 20 weeks. Obviously, Mr. Sherman does an amazing job of bringing the community together and holding some very intentional conversations. I'm glad you were there and being a part of it. So thank you for having me today.
All right, go ahead.
My first question is, why did you become an independent journalist?
I appreciate that question, Zariah. It was not a path that I had necessarily chosen for myself. When I think about like all the different lives I've lived, I've done a lot of different things. But in 2016, I was like starting into the field of advocacy and activism, and really trying to figure out the best use of my network and my position and my voice. And so I did things like go talk to senators. I was talking to philanthropy. I was talking to all these people. And it really made me feel like even though I knew that I had power, I was always asking for permission, always asking for someone else to make a thing that we knew was necessary possible. And it really wasn't dependent on like our perceptions or how we thought of ourselves as a community, as a Black community specifically. It was really dependent on how they thought of us. And that's really when I began to understand like the power of narrative. And narrative means just like, what's the like story that most people believe? So when I started thinking about narrative, and what people believed about us, I understood the importance of being able to shape that or make a narrative that really supported Black people and really helped people understand who we were, but mostly help us understand who we were for ourselves. So I felt like journalism and reporting stories was a really important place for me to be in, because I had a skill for writing, I had a skill of being persuasive, and I wanted to put those to good use for our community and help them better understand the root of issues and how we could work together to accomplish a good thing in our community. So in short, the reason why I became a journalist is because we need to better tell stories about ourselves in a way that is affirming and positive and helps us make good change in our community.
What you think about his answer? Was it a good answer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep the mic up to your mouth so we can hear you. Good. She said that was a good answer.
Okay.
All right. All right, go ahead with your second question.
What do you
What?
do you hope to have on young journalists?
Oh, what impact do you hope to have on young journalists? Okay.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this in our conversation, but I really hope that young journalists, specifically young Black journalists, understand that objectivity is not the truth. It's a tool that traditional or white media has used to ensure that they're able to put out the narrative that they want out. And so because we understand ourselves so well and can help our community understand ourselves better, we have to have a opinion and we have to have a point of view. And so I want young journalists to know that it's okay to have a point of view. It's okay to have an opinion on the issue, and it's okay to want things to change. So we're not just reporters. Reporters are people that just tell a story in like a series of events. So a reporter will just inform, but we're here to make change, and change demands that we take a stance. So I want young Black journalists to understand that it's important, not only necessary, but very important to take a stance and to understand what you believe and to come to stories with a perspective so that you can be able to move people to action. Because the only way we create change is by having action and all of us doing action together.
Wow. What you think about that? He said everybody got to do something. Do you think that's important for everybody to do something?
It was amazing.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we getting from good to amazing. All right.
Yeah, good to amazing. I'm priming her to be my co-host. So
I love
eventually
it.
we're gonna have her sitting here with me through all the conversations because she is very outspoken, she's very smart, and it's all about priming that next generation. And so thank you, Soraya, for joining us for this first part of the show. I know this is getting some little tension off your back. So how you feel about your first time being on the show?
It was good.
You feel good? Okay.
Can I say good job, Zaraya? I think it's so cool that you're being brave and bold and getting on the show and doing your thing. So I can't wait to see you do more.
All right. All right. We'll see you later. All right. Man, my granddaughter.
I love it. How
Yeah.
cool.
Man, I she asked could she be on. I said, what would you talk about? She's like, well, I don't know. I just want to say something. I said, okay, well, we'll have you ask Jakeen a couple questions. So she came up with her questions. Yeah,
I love
good job.
that.
Yeah, good job. All right.
She knows what she wants. I love that she asked to be on there and she did
Yeah,
it
yeah,
good
because she
too.
done
That's
seen me do
amazing.
it so many times, and she sit upstairs on YouTube and watch it. So I'm like, what better way for her to get her firsthand experience by being on there? So
that's right.
Yeah, and again, thank y'all for everybody on Instagram that's joining, man. Y'all going crazy on the gram. Okay, that's beautiful. Somebody said, good job teaching her while she young. Yeah. Yep. Inform and motivate. That's right. That's what we got to do for the next generation. So yeah, we want to get to the nitty gritty. My brother Jakeen, I seen on Facebook, brother, man, you have to be one of the first people I know of anyway that got fired from your job for talking about Charlie Kirk. Now, can you go over what was said on your posts and then how it was brought to your attention that they seen it? Like, because I'm thinking, like, how do these people even know his personal Facebook stuff?
Yeah, and so again, thank you for bringing me on the platform. I really appreciate it. And I didn't pull up the exact post because I actually forgot. I was going through the questions that you sent me. I forgot that we were going to talk about this. As a journalist, sometimes you don't want to be the news. You just want to report the news. But every now and then you are the news. So
that's right.
Yeah, earlier in October, obviously Charlie Kirk was what they call assassinated by a young white, conservative is kind of the description we've been given. And I think there was a lot of conversation, even obviously like from the governmental perspective, as you can see throughout the country, bills are being filed that said we should be honoring Charlie Kirk in these certain ways. We should have a day for him. People were getting doxxed in government for not agreeing that he was some kind of lionized figure in our society that we should all respect.
Right.
Without giving any kind of real energy to all of the harmful, racist, homophobic, misogynistic content that he had created over the years and obviously very recently. And so I, as outspoken as I always am, I made a post that really just said, to paraphrase, I don't have the exact words in front of me, but to paraphrase said that it was a lot to ask for Black people to feel any kind of sadness
Right.
or empathy for a man that had maligned our community for years and years, even so much as to say Black women are inherently not as intelligent as other groups of people, and more racist things, than that. So I just simply said that it was a big ask and not something that I would be partaking in. I don't feel sad that he's dead. I think his death is a consequence of a real life consequence of the hate that he put out into the world. And no firing will change my mind about that. I stand pretty firm in that ideology. And so obviously, as posts do, that can be controversial. It gets shared around. And I think it was shared somewhere, and a person saw, because I did have my former job in my profile on Facebook. And so they said, they tagged the job. It was some person I didn't know, I had no connection to, but that's kind of how social media works. So they tagged the job and said, the job should look into this. Is that what they stand for? Something like that. And I did respond, and I said, if I am fired for not believing that a racist, Nazi in our community, if I don't feel sad about that as a Black person, as a gay person, then that's not somewhere I would want to be anyway. And that it would probably be good grounds for a lawsuit. And
that's what Miss Dorch is asking too. Shouldn't that be a lawsuit? Because on your employer goes, what happened to freedom of speech?
Yeah, and so that's a good question, and something that we'll have to answer as time goes by. Obviously, I'm looking into what the repercussions could be with the state, as well as like civil lawsuits. So we're in that conversation. I'm having a conversation with the state in December. But we have to remember that states like Nebraska are at-will states. So really, you can be fired for anything. It's a private company. They have their own standards. I was fired under the social media policy, which will be do with legal, just to see like what. Obviously, it's really vague. Don't do anything that we don't agree with. Is kind of what the policy states. And I think it's a good thing to know that the company I was working for, that's what they agree with. You know what I mean? Not my stance that I shouldn't be harmed because of my race or who I love, those kind of things, but that we shouldn't make controversial statements. I guess is the message that they're sending. So we'll see what the outcome of that is, and I'll definitely come back to inform you all. But again, like, you have to understand the risk of being outspoken, of what it means to not go with the status quo, is that you are under threat. We understand that from the big issues to the small ones. And so this is just another example that systems don't work in our favor when we tell the truth, when we're bold and we go against the status quo. So we'll see the real outcome of that. But it really was one post, one person saw that that I worked at a certain place. I was at work when HR called me.
That's what I was gonna ask. How they bring it to you?
Yeah, with a certain investigation, and it was really maybe a 2-minute conversation. They said, "Did you post this?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Were you celebrating?" I said, "I don't know if that's really a question I would answer to a corporate entity about like my feelings about this post. Like, what I stated was what I stated. I don't know if my intention actually matters in this situation." I wrote the words that I wrote, and they didn't take too kindly to that. But it was a very short conversation. And then a couple of days later, my district manager called and said that I would be terminated immediately. And did I have any questions?
Wow.
And I said no. And so it's
immediately.
And also to understand, in that space, I was the number one seller.
Wow.
I was an assistant store manager, and obviously was working maybe 70 hours a week because there was so much turnover in that store, and that had nothing to do with me because I just got there. So again, like, no matter the height, they're going to remind you of what they think of you and what they think that you should be able and shouldn't be able to do. So I think that's a really important conversation. I don't want to deter anyone from being truth tellers. I want you to be prepared to tell the truth and not be afraid of the consequences that will come. I will say, though, in my current position now, I'm back in nonprofit, and I'm the happiest I've been in a really long time. So I find that setback was actually a setup for something really great, and my life has actually been much more peaceful and much happier since I was forcefully made to exit from there. So I take it as a blessing, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to make sure that all of my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed with when it comes to my like legal avenues for reparations in that conversation.
Wow. Yeah, Miss Wanda said it's not the first job you've been fired from.
She right. She right. And again, for speaking out. And
Just for
so,
speaking out.
and
Yeah. And she
usually, you
said,
know
like
what?
she said, you were simply fired for expressing your opinion, which is
Yes.
crazy. And Laura said it's so racism was more important than profit, because with you being the number one seller and the supervisor, they tied already for the turnover, and they still let you go just because you said something about this dude who probably didn't know them or give two shits about them in the first place.
Exactly. And again, like before I got there, the other manager was working every single day. So this is an example of like they not only do they not care about me as a human, they don't care about anybody in there because they didn't even prepare her. You know, she was in the store when my store manager was in the store when this happened, and she came back and gasped, was shocked, like couldn't believe, one probably for me, but also for herself. Like now she's back to working 7 days a week,
Wow.
every, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the system, like demonstrating what they feel is important. And it wasn't work-life balance for anybody in there. And I don't know how they're doing now, but I know they're gonna miss they gonna miss me. And I was the number one seller by far. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yep. Somebody on Instagram, Kurt's Home Improvements, he said respect. And Miss Dort said opinion is opinion. Wow, but hey, thanks for standing up for yourself and your opinion.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And so with that being done, I mean, was your initial reaction, were you shocked? Were you sad? What were you thinking? Like, dang, I spoke on this man. I know, because we all was seeing it around social media, people getting fired left and right from their jobs for talking about Charlie Kirk. And now here we are in little old Omaha, Nebraska. And here they go firing you, the jeweler, the number one seller, for making a post. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think, sometimes I'm not going to say I was necessarily shocked. I think maybe surprised at like who, because again, like Charlie Kirk is a terrible, terrible person. Like there's no redeeming quality about him. He's a terrible example of Christianity. He's a terrible example of a father and a leader. And so there was no redeeming qualities about Charlie Kirk. So I think that was surprising, like the hill that they decided that would be their kind of like stance that they would take. But again, like we have to understand, I'm a student of civil rights. Like I know that no one is exempt from consequence. No one is exempt from the trials that come with telling the truth in the skin that we're in. So you have to come to expect. And like Miss Wanda said, I've been fired before. So so it's not so I'm not necessarily surprised. I mean, shocked. It was a little bit surprising about who, and when, but I think that's really another important example of like, again, you're never too big. You know what I mean? You're never too successful. You're never too anything for the kind of system that we're living under, which is white supremacists. They always are going to choose themselves. And so if I didn't have that understanding beforehand, I definitely have it now. And that just re-motivates me to build for myself, to build for our own community, and to have more of a sense of ownership around my future. So I was doing good work. I was doing great work for them. But again, I was working for them. And so that's the understanding that I take from that. But it was surprising at first because like, oh, really? Like you're going to put them in that situation? Like you don't even care about the rest of the team. I think that's the most surprising part because the managers understood like the dire straits that they were in, but they chose to prove a point over take care of people. And I think that was the most surprising part of the situation. But no, I'll probably get fired again from a job at some point, because I'm always going to be this person. I think it's so important that we have our lines that we don't cross, and our integrity and our dignity. And that's so much more important to me as a Black man, as a friend of of these marginalized communities, that we demonstrate what it looks like to stand up, even when it's hard to do that.
That's right. And that's why I copied and pasted this comment from Instagram from L Unicom Martinez. It said Blacks and Browns United. So like you said, we as a community, we do have to stand up no matter what the consequences are. And like Ms. Wanda said, you've been fired before, so it ain't like we can't bounce back. We done had our ancestors slaughtered and all kind of stuff done happen. And guess what? We still here.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to bounce back from everything. And like Ms. Dortch, she said, well, you didn't get fired. You moved on. God knows the plan. Before we do, one door closed and another one will open.
I believe that.
Yes, ma'am. And so I do have the Dreamland page report. I mean, the Dreamland report page pulled up here. So I want to share that on the screen just so we can go over some of this stuff. And then I want to talk about a story and why it didn't get published and the importance of like what you do and why you do it. Because again, we as independent journalists have to tell the stories of our community, because most of the time, local media, national media, they won't tell our story. I was just speaking before you jumped on. There's a young lady. She inboxed me from Instagram, and she was talking about how in her state, she's not able to get nobody to help her with her case. And she found me on social media and was like, you know what? I want to know if there's anything you can offer to help me, that you can help with, because she's getting harassed and all that by the police and stuff in her. And like I told her, I gave her my number and I told her to call me. She said that she had her wits end, you know, and the NAACP and all the people, she in Stafford County, Virginia, and they not helping her there. She's harassed by the police. She said her dad ain't around no more. Like, I think he might have passed or something. She just said, hey, I don't have no men to help until I stumbled upon your page. And I'm hoping, even though we way in Omaha, we can help provide her some resources and what she can do to get some help in Virginia. This is why we do what we do here in this small town. And then we put it on social media and have these kind of shows, because you never know who in the world needs our assistance and what we can gain from each other, assistance and helping each other. So shouts out to that sister, man. And I appreciate her reaching out, having the even wanting to have us help her. So yeah, here I got your page pulled up, and I want you to, if there's anything that you want me to click on to bring up, cool, I can do that. But there, if y'all haven't seen the link, I don't know if you can see it from there, but it's at the Dreamland Report, medium.com at the Dreamland Report. I'm gonna copy this link here. That way y'all can click on it once the show is over. I think it'll be a hyperlink, and it'll make it to where you can click on it and go right to his page. And so that way you can keep up with Jakeen and the stuff that he's writing about. But Jakeen, yeah, this is your page. You want to give us a tour, or how you want to go about it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go down some of the questions that you sent me when we were talking about the conversation. And I do want to start with why independent journalism is more important than ever, because I think that frames what we'll talk about really well. And so I had three kind of points that I wanted to bring up. One is that independent journalism, again, is coming from trusted sources. I think that's one of the most important parts of that. And we have to really get a good understanding of what qualifies as independent journalism.
Right.
I think that's community journalism, like you and I, people that aren't necessarily funded to do this work, but have a heart for the constituencies and the audiences that we're reporting on and for. So I think that's the first part. There's a really important organization that does really great work. It's called Media 2070. I'm going to drop this into the chat, and maybe you can drop it into the public one. But I want people to understand, like, independent journalism, it in itself is an argument for media reparations. It's an important thing to understand that us as independent journalists, the reason that people are so scared of that is because if we're given our due, it means that they will have to change something that they've become comfortable doing. And so we have to understand that that's why there's so much resistance to this kind of field, to why people want to absorb these small entities into those larger traditional kind of framework so they can have more control over what's said and what's done. But this is a reparations conversation, because throughout history, we understand that the people holding the truth in a way that really changes things are people like us, and specifically Black people. We've had to create counter narratives to what's been presented because they never told the truth about us, because it would mean that they would do something differently. And what's great about this essay, the media reparations essay, which is specific to the impact, the concerted effort, and not only just like in media versus Black, like white media versus Black media, but government against Black media.
Come on,
you know,
now.
We have to really understand the structure of this. Like, it wasn't just like, okay, white media was telling stories, so people just kind of went over there first. Like, there were intentional laws, policies enacted that would weaken and limit the opportunity of Black media to exist in the first place. So these are real structural, it's an industry, and it's a real structural policies that made sure that we wouldn't be able to tell the truth in the way that it was necessary. So I think that's a really important point, that this goes all the way back to slavery. We had to create counter narratives to what was happening, or else no one would ever know the real truth. And that still stands today. Another part about being a trusted source is that community journalism means community accountability. If you know me, you can hold me accountable, much more accountable than you can hold the random reporter that just got hired at Omaha World Herald or Flatwater Free Press or any of those outlets. They don't know you. They don't feel a burden to, one, ensure that things are correct in a way that affirms you, but they don't feel a burden to answer to you either.
They don't.
We've seen that in so many different ways. We'll call to get a story corrected. They won't do it because it has it. You know, not only is it their pride in white supremacy, they don't like Black people telling them what to do, but they don't know us enough to trust us in the way that we trust each other. So Sherman could call me and say, this story needs to be corrected. And we'd have that conversation, because it doesn't take 3 different calls to get to me. You know what I mean? We're here with each other. We know each other. Anyone on this IG Live could Facebook me or call me, and we could have a conversation, because we're directly engaging with each other in a way that creates a real accountability and real relationship. And I think those are really important parts. So trusted sources, understanding like the history of why we need independent journalism, specifically Black independent journalism, and the opportunities that community journalism creates for real accountability. We also understand that the corporate takeover of traditional and legacy media is another reason we need independent journalism. We aren't just, again, fighting a couple people at the news desk. We're fighting industries and corporations that have foreign interests and white supremacist ideology like embedded in their creation and their being, and need those things to survive in order to be relevant. And so it's not a person-to-person kind of conversation or interaction that we're having. It's a person against an industry. And so like they've never answered to this, and they never want to answer to us. And now they're far more beholden in today's day and age to those foreign interests and to those white supremacist ideologies than they ever have before, because the political structure makes consequences for not agreeing, as you can see with the conversation we just had about me, little old me, being fired because I said something about Charlie Kirk.
Right.
But the political atmosphere is so conservative and so right-wing and so racist, and they are beholden to that. One, because it supports them and their bottom line, and because they're fearful for their jobs. If they tell the truth in a way that those powers don't agree with, they're done too. Right. So we have to be honest about like the climate that we're in. That this idea that that journalism is people that are just going out and doing their best to tell stories, like that's not what's happening anymore.
No,
that's not the era that we're in. Those days are kind of far gone in the traditional outlets, because corporations have taken over those outlets. And then the last part that I wanted to point to before we talk through some of the stories are just like the importance of independent journalism based on like the vested interest in positive outcomes. If I'm from your community, if I love your community and we're in community together, then I have a vested interest in negative things being resolved, not just reported.
Right.
Regular outlets, they report, and that's They feel like
there's there's no way they're looking for any resolution. They just
yeah,
want
that's not of interest to them. It's like, news has become the blogs, like where they're happy to see the drama and the mess because that allows them to report on something, and there's no accountability or a responsibility that comes from that. It's a amplification of mess that creates even more mess in our communities.
right.
And independent journalism, community journalism is the exact opposite. We're looking for solutions. We're looking for ways out because if it helps my community, it helps me. And I think we have to really understand the value of that, the value of people like Sherman, like Cheryl Weston. There's so many people that are doing great work to provide awareness. And because, again, that awareness and that social change, that positive change is a positive thing for them. And I can't say the same about other outlets. So I think those things are really important to form the conversation. And then, I think we can kind of go through some of those other questions that you had. If you want to ask them or you want me to run them down, but
I do want to just so what made us really dive deep, and this is where I first seen some of your skills as a journalist was because this piece right here is saying the wake of white journalism, North Omaha left to pick up the pieces. And so in this story, he talks about how we were at the Bryan Center, which is a basketball court here in Omaha, Nebraska, a historic court. And we were there for 2 years, feeding people, having activities for the children, learning activities, inviting guests, kept it clean and looking really nice. And a white journalist came along and did a story and basically said it's ran down and we got somebody that's going to come and save it. Well, Jakeen was like, what is they talking about? Because I know y'all been there doing the work and it wasn't ran down. It was clean, but it is ran down now. But what ended up happening was they moved us out of that place because, again, you're in the crime area that they consider crime area 68111, and you're not supposed to be able to have things going on where the police wasn't called. But we was there for 2 years with no police calls, right? And so they tried to make it seem like they were bringing in this savior, which no knock to the brother because he didn't even know. But the point was this journalist did not come and talk to us, didn't talk to the community or nothing, just ran the story and ran it as is, not knowing that we were already there. And maybe if he did know, I'm not going to say he didn't. And also started a rumor that I was stealing money, from the actual activities, which when they found out, I was letting everybody come down there who was coming down there for free, even the people who was raising money. So again, this was a piece that Jakeen, and when y'all get a chance, I need y'all to go read this. Because he exposed, again, people coming in our community, like he was talking about trusted sources. This was not a trusted source. You don't know what you're talking about, but they came in the community and wrote this story, had it all in the World Herald, which is our local newspaper here, and described it as this person is coming in to save the park, save the community. And when they came in, they did one event with 100,000 police, and then after that, nothing else happened. Okay. And it's been quiet and dark down there ever since. And there's people on this live who can attest to it because not only were they participants, but they were contributors to what Untamed and me and my family was doing down there. And so, again, it goes back to exactly what he was just talking about, the journalism that we need to have in our community. It needs to be trusted. It needs to be people who actually know what they're talking about when you're talking about a community.
And the accountability piece as well, because you called them a couple times to get some corrections. And did that ever happen?
No. They did end up meeting up with me to want to save face. We talked, and they wouldn't give me the source of where they got the information that they said we were stealing money. But once we found out that these people at that church wrote that $2 million grant and they put the work that we were doing in their grant, that's how I found out. And then they also inadvertently accused us again back then. They they were telling other people that we were taking money. So we found out where it came from, but it didn't really matter because you had already checked it. You put this piece out. Everybody found out that it was all bull, and we went from there.
And I think that gets into the second kind of question that you asked, because you sent me that question about how mainstream and local news often choose what community stories deserve coverage and the type of
Right.
thing they cover. And I think that that idea of a savior is so embedded in their psyche, one, because they believe themselves to be white saviors of our communities, that
Yeah.
anytime that there's an opportunity to say this is so bad and it can become so good, like that's like it makes their mouths salivate, because they know that there is a pervasive narrative that we need some kind of saving, as opposed to what we really need, which is to be left alone to our own devices.
Come on, man.
And so I think that's a really important kind of topic to talk about, because we know how they choose. So one, we have to understand, again, like in traditional news outlets, there's a hierarchy that makes that determines what makes it to audiences. And so like not only does it determine like what makes it to audiences, but how the story is covered. You know, when you're trying to hold a news outlet accountable, that you'll try to go to the reporter, and the reporter's like, well, that's not my decision to make. I got to go to my first editor, and then there's the editor-in-chief of the newspaper that I got to talk to. So there's so many levels of bureaucracy when it comes to how stories are developed and how stories are told, that it doesn't even matter that a journalist can come to that story with the best of intentions.
Right.
If that hierarchy doesn't agree with those intentions, if it doesn't fit the narrative that they need, that story changes.
It
And there's
does.
only so much control that a single journalist has in how their story turns out at the end of the day. And as much as we want to hold individual journalists accountable, that's not how that works in a traditional media outlet. And so we have to be cognizant of that. Like, again, we have some great Black journalists in our community, or, you know, have and have had. But we see how often they leave and how quickly they leave, because the ability to tell a good story and a story that matters and is meaningful is very limited, especially in our corporate news media ecosystem that we're in right now. So in the age of algorithms, clicks become so much more meaningful than content. And so like when we have to understand that outlets are driven by that capitalism, they will do what they need to do to survive and continue to make money. And whatever narrative fits their bottom line, they will reshape it to make it so. So
Man,
decisions aren't driven by integrity. It is
no,
strictly profit.
it's all profit. And Dr. Donna Polk said, do you see the need for a newspaper that report the news?
Do I see a need? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
That was our saving graces in so many different eras of the Black liberation movement, all the way from slavery times, when Ida B. Wells was making sure that every slave in America, even the ones that didn't get the news, somehow got the news that they were free. Like, we wouldn't have all those folks and all the enslaved Black people in Texas that didn't know they were free until 2 years later. They wouldn't have never found out, because those papers had to reach them. So we needed that to even start our independent living in America. And we saw how the news shaped our civil rights movement as well, until the majority of Americans could see the amount of violence that was perpetrated on Black people, Black Americans, when they were just trying to live their lives, until they saw that in their faces repeatedly over and over again. And that wasn't just newspapers, obviously, but again, on TV, when they started streaming, not streaming, oh my gosh, I'm using modern terms, but when they started showing on news, the dogs being sicked on Black people, the water hoses being turned on, that was the deciding factor in how we were able to create real coalitions for change in our community. So we have to be able to find some way to report the news. I think newspapers, we do need to hold on to really closely, because though it feels outdated, we see how much control people have around our algorithms. We see how free speech is not really free speech. The printed word is going to be really important. We don't know what's going to happen in these next couple of years with Trump. We see him calling reporters piggy to their faces, yanking back people's press passes instantly like that if they don't agree to certain policies. We saw the Pentagon take away I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 news media outlets that didn't sign on to reporting exactly what they said they were going to report to. So the need for media that cannot be misconstrued, that can't be changed and shifted based on the algorithm or limited based on the algorithm, we need to be pouring more and more resources into, because those have been and will be our saving grace, I believe.
Absolutely. And brother Jahi Shabazz, he said Charlie Kirk was a Zionist racist nationalist. He was removed by his own cabal, not black people. Blacks are supposed to shut up about white on white political crime and murder. No, we not. And
Never.
so we definitely need people like brother Jahi to keep speaking up, to keep your foot on the necks of these people, because again, here you have, like he was saying, the algorithms, the way they take away your pages if it gets too far, they will shut you down. But what they haven't been able to shut down is this brother right here, Jahi, who just made that comment. If you haven't already, look on my Instagram page at this video right here, where brother Jahi confronts the sheriff in our town, not only for murdering our children, but putting a call out to black men around the United States and black people to say, we're not going to be afraid. We're going to be men and we're going to stand up. And if you go through some of these comments, like right here, it says, why do I feel a lot more safer watching this? Okay. These are people that don't know brother Jahi from a can of paint, but just the fact that they was able to see him do this and see this room where we brought in 40 African tribe members to confront this sheriff about him killing an unarmed 19-year-old man who they said he had a firearm, but when we watched the actual video, the firearm was in his cup holder. He never had it in his hand, and this officer shot him within 2 seconds of walking up to his car. And you never, ever gave him a chance. The car who plates it was on, the plates that was on that car, you didn't go to that house and raid that house. You raided his house after you killed him. But you didn't check on the people who actually had the guns. You just killed the man who that you thought was the perpetrator, but he was actually in front of his house. And the two people who brought the guns ran away. And needless to say, they wasn't black. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so
we do not pay them to murder our children. So what's going to happen here? We're going to be men and we're not going to be afraid. You understand that? You do not kill our children. And this—
woo, man, y'all got to go watch that video, man. He definitely popped in, and already there's been over 1.1 million views on that video because of the courage he showed, right? And so with you doing that report that you did, that showed courage, because they like, who is this guy taking on Flatwater Free Press and talking about the Omaha World Herald and reporting their stories wrong, okay? And so again, now this segues into what we were just talking about reporting stories. So this is the part of the show where I was telling y'all viewer discretion is advised, okay? I want to just let y'all know that I'll be showing some pictures that most of y'all might find weak to your stomach. And if you got a weak stomach, then you might want to tune out. If you don't have a weak stomach, then keep watching, because I'm about to show you something from a man who's at this nursing facility, okay? And let me just share the screen, because I'm gonna put their name up here again, because we're not afraid of nothing. So let's go ahead and pop this up here first. Share this screen. Where is that? Right here. Nope, that one ain't it. There it is. Okay, so this is the organization where this man is at. Window. There it is. All right. So this man is at the Omaha Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. Okay. It's supposed to be Omaha Nursing and Rehabilitation. All right. And so we got a call from one of his family members that they've been struggling to get him the assistance he's supposed to have in this place, even though this place is taking his money. And when we initially got the call, we went to go visit for ourselves. Okay. And it was worse than I ever thought it was based off the call. And the family member informed me not only did they already contact these people, but they have already done a formal complaint with DHHS about adult abuse. Adult Protective Services, they had already filed their report. And so we went in there. Initially, the first time I went, walked right in, didn't have to sign no papers, went upstairs and went and talked to the man. Okay. And what we saw was terrible. And the pictures that we got, all right, let me just pull up the first one. And again, like I said, if you don't want to see it, you can tune out right now. Okay. That's one of the very first pictures. Okay. This is, if you notice how wet it is around there. So they were neglecting to even change the bedding because he can't get up out the bed. Okay. This is what we ran into. Sores and wounds because this man couldn't get turned over. They wasn't changing the bedding. There was a point where there were maggots under his body, eating at his flesh. Okay. Omaha Nursing and Rehab. And it's just horrific. Look at the urine soaked bed and his gown. Okay. This is what we walked into, and this is his leg and his foot. They weren't getting him up out of the bed. He just stayed there laying there. Okay. Soaked in urine. Okay. And I'm sorry I have to show y'all this, but I have to. I initially was not going to do this story on my page because after we went, they did start doing some stuff. But over this weekend, he was telling me again, they're getting back relaxed and they're not taking care of him the way they're supposed to be. Okay. So what I initially did after those images, I did a bunch of emails to the actual owners, which is I think they're called Insignia. Yeah, Insignia Ensign Services, which is the LLC that owns the Omaha Rehab. Okay. Sent them the email, sent it to DHHS, all of the players that should be helping this man. No response. So then I sent it out to the news media. I did get a response from Channel 7. They came, they interviewed me, they got those pictures, they interviewed the patient, and the day the story was supposed to air, they said, we're going to just shelf it because we talked to the Omaha Rehab and they said this stuff is not true. So you have pictures and you spoke to the person, but since it's not something like he talked about earlier, they're owned by these other people. So the journalist, the reporter called me and said, hey, the back room is going to shelf the story until we can get some more information. What more information do you need? Of course, they're going to deny it. Okay. So when I went back the second time, this is how you know when people is guilty. I went back the second time and they said, hold up, you can't go up there. They held me at that front desk for 30 minutes and made me verify who I was before I could go up there. And I told them we cousins because we all cousins in Omaha. So yeah, they didn't know, but I had to reveal my relationship to this man. Right. So we get upstairs and now you got 5 nurses in his room, cleaning him up, refreshing his covers, turning him over, checking his wounds, all this stuff. So we ended up being up there for an hour and a half waiting for them to get his room together before they let us see him again. Okay. And the news to this day still have not aired the story. So now that's why y'all got to see it on my show. Because they still haven't aired the story. They don't want to tell the story. There's mice in this place running around. And you feeding people out of here. This is the rehab center, right? Nursing facility. There were rat traps in this place. He complained about the smell of the chemicals they were using. And this past weekend, like I said, he was telling me it took him 2 days still to come and change his stuff. So we thought it was getting a little better because they actually finally got a wheelchair to put him in to take him outside. This man wasn't even seeing the outdoors. But just because we came in there and did what we did, then of course they stopping us at the front door. They doing all this, and now you want to take, but now you relaxed and then went back to your normal stuff. Huddling up in the corners, being mean to him, yelling at him, calling him out his name just because he want to get help. And this is a rehab center where you're taking people's money. You're supposed to be caring for this man. This is what we doing. This is care. No, it's not care. This is far from care. This is no care. Maggots, you know what it takes for maggots to be set in somebody's bed under them? Okay? This is the stuff we dealing with. Am I going to catch some slack for reporting on this stuff and showing y'all these pictures? Of course I am. But I don't care, because our media, local news media, they wouldn't report it. I gave them all the information. The family member has the report from when she called Adult Protective Services. That's why Brother Jakeen is very important. That's why what we do over here is important. Cheryl Weston, William King, First Sky. We have to be able to report the stories coming out of our community. Just like with Billy Alcorn. Yeah, they reported a man got hit on the interstate, but they didn't report the negligence of Douglas County Jail releasing this man, telling his family, come pick him up at 5:30. And then when they get there, he's already gone. And then wandered on the interstate and got hit by a car and died. That's your fault. And legally releasing him to his family means actually handing him to a family member, not just putting him out on the front steps like, here you go. We know you confused and you wondering, but you just gonna leave him out there like that? Yes, Miss Dortch, of course. Said, thank you for helping my nephew. Yeah. You thought I'd second guessed on that story when I got that phone call? I wasn't about to ignore it. I had to go see the brother. Mm-hmm. And so again, Jakeen, what you're doing is important. I'm glad my granddaughter asked you that question, because why did you become an independent journalist? For stuff just like this, where they're not going to tell our story.
And I think that you asked that question, and when we were kind of going over how we talk, why some issues in our neighborhood never make it to the evening broadcast, and the question is always, who does the story benefit? Who does it? And that answer is always social and political. We keep underestimating how political every decision and every interaction we have is. And we have to really start to understand what we're dealing with. Again, like I said earlier, like, we're not in the days where journalism was for journalism's sake. We're not there anymore. This is business, American capitalism. And we have to be honest about the way that media looks right now. And the question is always power. Does it benefit them to tell that story? Who cares about if Black people are mistreated? Who actually cares? It's only us, and then only a few of us, really. So we have to start understanding, and we have to understand also our role in that narrative as well. Because how are they quantifying what we care about? What opinion we are agreeing with or aligning with? They only have access to us in so many different ways, and it's only a few ways actually when you think about it. It's social media, it's our data. They're understanding what we care about through those kind of outputs. And so if I go online and I see that our social media is covered with us just being upset and mean to each other, who else is going to care about that story? You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, so we have to start changing that narrative in all of our interactions, because all of our data is being collected. The day that it looks like a majority of us care in a way that will change how they have to start telling stories. And that's not only us. Obviously, we'll have to get some partners in that work and some allyship in that. But we have to start changing that narrative. We have to understand the power that we have as and our economic power, because we're the ones that care. We have to care about ourselves in that way. And then they'll start to tell a story in a way that matters. But until then, it's up to us. And so I think
That's
it's
right.
really important, again, because you care about what happens to Black people. You show that. You show it every day in how you act and how you report stories. And that's where that community journalism is so important, because it's up to us.
That's
We
right.
benefit from that. We're the only ones
We're
that
the
care
only ones
about
that's
us.
gonna care
We're
about
the
us.
only ones that care. It has
That's
been
right.
from the day that Black people landed on this on these shores. No one else has cared about us the way that we will have to care about ourselves. No one ever will. So we have to start demonstrating that in a way that changes how we have narrative control and power over our own experience.
That's
And
right.
I think that's really important. So I'm glad that you went up there, and I want to be a partner to you in how we get that story out and how we talk about that story, not
Yeah.
only on your platform, but on all of ours. So
All of ours.
I'm
And
definitely down to get to writing on that one.
right. And I'm glad that they brought up the newspaper, because we do have the oldest standing newspaper in Omaha, Black owned, the Omaha Star. And Miss Sanders is open to people writing stories and sending them to her. Okay. So she said, so pour into the Omaha Star locally.
Yes.
Printed news. Okay. Information, knowledge is power. All right. Somebody on Instagram asked me, is it on 72nd and Military? Nope. The Omaha Nursing and Rehabilitation Center is 4835 South 49th Street. And one of his family members in the comments said the nursing home takes his disability check monthly. He only gets $75 a month, and they don't even take him shopping. Okay. All right.
I'm sorry that your family's going through that. I'm so sorry that your family's going through that. It's not right. And we can't make anyone think that it's okay by our non-action. We have to show them that it's not right. And we have to show them mass and in all the ways that we can. Our opposition is so varied in the way that they try to take us down, the way they try to kill us and humiliate us. They use children's books, they use our care, they use our mental health, they use all of those avenues, our schools, they use every avenue to take us down. We have to be just as varied. And that's why it's so important that it has to be all of us that come together on this action. And all the ways that you feel powerful, you have to come to that movement with that skill and with that passion, because we need everything to make this work. And maybe it's not taking them down, but we have to create our alternate systems. We have to create our options, our alternatives to what they're feeding us and embedding in our psyche. We have to have an alternative for that. And we have to really pour into that in the ways that make it meaningful, and the ways that our blueprint, which is our history, because it's been done. This is not a new thing that we have to do. We have a very specific blueprint and very specific pathway of success when it comes to liberation movements. We just have to be interested enough to study them.
Yeah. And so, we are going to utilize all of the platforms that we can to help this brother get his story out. I do want to probably have you go, and if you want to interview him to talk, and we'll connect through Miss Dorch. I do have his phone number as well. But today I really wanted to show those pictures. I've been holding on to them in hopes that they would answer us and get some kind of stuff done. But after this weekend, I got more messages from him about them, and then the mice situation. And he wanted the number to the to the people who was in charge of that. And they just don't respond. They haven't responded to the family's report. They came out to see him one time after that, and then that was pretty much it. And Brother Terrence said it's unbelievable, but it's just what's crazy is they did it, then they tried to stop me from seeing it, then you got your shit together, and then you went right back to it like you thought that was it. And she said, I have an underlying health issue myself, heart congestive failure. So it's hard when my nephew reaches out to me. All I can do is get him some help. And we here to help you, sister. For real.
That's right.
Keep in mind, every action plan needs to come with a protection plan. There's going to be death threats. Of course. Yep. Sorry if I missed it. Can he be removed and transferred to another facility? We've been working on that. His guardian is working on that. Okay. But in the meantime, that's where he is. And I'm telling you now, my daughter went with me to go visit him initially. Miss Weston went to go talk to him already initially. And Derek went with me to go talk to him. So we've been in direct communication. It's just, I think they just not taking us serious because the news didn't report it. And in their mind, if they won't report it, us saying something, they don't think it means nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we gonna get on top of that, because the last thing y'all gonna do is keep on playing with our people in this community. And once they reach out to us, we don't let stuff go. We don't let it go. We gonna go to the end. She said, "Thank you, God bless y'all." Y'all know, thank you for even reaching out to me, Miss Dorch. Because I don't know if y'all know, but the Dorches, that family, man, I love that family. I've been around that family my whole life. So when she reached out, right away, I was like, let's go see him. And so we have a ton of these types of issues around here going on in the community. We need all hands on deck if we think we're gonna make any kind of dent in it. And I'm very happy that Brother Jakeen is continuing to do what he did, because guess what? Y'all seeing him get fired and he posted it. That could have been like, oh, he could have went to a dark place and sunk. But look at the brother. Y'all take a good look at him. Do he look like he done sunk to y'all? No, he ain't sinking. He took a stand, and he gonna make sure that what he's doing in this community and reporting is gonna go 10 times more. What do you think? You think you're gonna shut this man down? It's not gonna happen, y'all.
It can't happen. I wasn't raised that way, and none of my role models have let it happen. And I think for me, it actually is very meaningful that happened. So because now I have the time to devote.
There you go.
That I need to. There was work in me. That's what capitalism will do. It'll make you make your money in a way where you can't make your dreams.
Right.
And so now I have the opportunity to make sure that I'm another voice that helps represent our community in the way that I feel powerful, which is writing. And again, I want people to understand the power of narrative and power of journalism. All those stories that I wrote changed something.
Right.
And that's not about me. That's about people being brave enough to bring that information and giving me the opportunity to form it into something that gives us a leverage and puts us on the offensive. I wrote a story about the Omaha Community Playhouse. They have all new leadership after that story. All new leadership after that story. We talked about what happened at the Bryant Center course. They was blowing up Sherman phone to make something happen after that. We talked about the Black voter story. We didn't talk about that on here, but that Black voter story, which allowed us to understand the diversity of opinion in our community, because so often we're put into this monolith of thinking, and it doesn't allow us to have a real conversation about who we are as people. All those stories change something in a way that, like, now we can look back on and say, like, this works if we work it. If we're working together, if we're honest, if we're bold and brave enough to give that real information. The reason they have all new leadership is because people sent me, things that could have got them in trouble from that organization. They sent it. They were brave enough to do that, no matter the consequence. And I was able to put that into the news story, and we got change to happen.
Right.
And it was almost immediate. And now I'm not going to say that happens every single time. Yeah. But when we do that work well together, we can make change. And that was only a few of us. Right. Think of what happens when there's a lot of us.
A lot of us. And like Ms. Wanda said, it makes the work more important than ever. And my daughter said to you, amen, one door closed, another one open. You got a bigger purpose. And that's why you don't see this brother on here folding. He ain't crying over that. No, not at all. And if you or anybody else that you know have a loved one at the Omaha Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, reach out to me or Jakeen. Let us know what's going on with your loved one, because they definitely wouldn't let the other people talk to us. They seen us in there assisting this brother, and they come over like, hey, you know what? I got a problem. They like, you can't talk to him. So they wouldn't let him even talk to me. And that's fine. It's okay, because, there's people that's independent. They can watch the show and they'll know and see that they can contact us, and my number is public. Jakeen is a public person. His page is open. If you need to contact us, just let us know. Okay. And if you don't want your name to be exposed or whatever, it's fine. Just let us know the conditions that you're dealing with, because what we're not going to do is stop at what we've already done. And then, like I said, I've emailed every single, so it can't nobody say they didn't know. I've sent them emails on the situation, where he was at, the person's name, his room number, and even back then. So this was when I visited him was September 25th. So it's 2 months almost to the day. Okay. And here we are this weekend. He's still getting having issues with them coming in and just doing simple stuff like changing the padding in his room. You know, it shouldn't be happening. So again, no, we're going to continue to move forward on this issue. And like I said, if you got somebody at the Omaha rehab, you let us know. She said, I wish someone could help my nephew write a book about his life. He got shot 21 years ago. He's been paralyzed ever since, mistreated and disrespected.
So sorry. Yeah.
Wow. And then to be humiliated by being in this place, like she said, that's taking his money. Every time he get a check, y'all taking his money, but then you leaving him in stuff like this with maggots and piss soaked, urine stained. I mean, come on, man. This is what he's paying for to be treated this way? Are y'all serious? And are we as a community going to allow that to keep happening?
Can't.
We can't. Because if we do, we just as guilty as the people doing it.
That's right.
All right? We're just as guilty. And that's why when the elder man got hit this weekend, the Tuesday, and then the sheriff had the nerves to make a point and try to use it as a way to push his no nonsense about people on the interstate and talking about it's illegal. I said something, and I did have plenty of people come to me and say, why did I use foul language when I addressed the sheriff? And I had it on my public page because you know why? I don't respect demons. I'm not here to pull on his heartstrings. He's a demon. I'm going to talk to him any old kind of way. He'll never get my respect because you don't do that to this family that's grieving over their loved one. And then you want to talk about your policy.
Demonic.
So yeah, I called him an asshole. Yeah, I called him a bitch. That's what I did on a public platform, and that's what I will continue to do because he gets no respect from me. I can't pull on a demon's heartstring. They don't care. We got to cut the heads off demons. He's a demon. He don't care about this community. And how many times do he have to show us over and over again that he don't? So why do we think we can have meetings with him and talk to him and act like this is stuff we talking about to him is important to him? Because it's not. Okay. So before we get out of here, I want my brother Jakeen to leave y'all with, anybody who's even thinking about getting into any type of journalism. What would be something you would be able to give them? I know a lot of people is afraid, and like somebody said on Instagram, oh, there'll be death threats and this kind of stuff. We know that stuff comes with it because it's happened to us already. But are we afraid? No. Did it stop the motion? No. What would you say to these people?
Yeah, I think that's important. I think even that point specifically about the death threats, you're living under a death threat. One, we're in black skin. Two, black people are dying 10 to 12 years earlier in Omaha than their white counterparts. We live 10 to 12 years shorter lives in Omaha than our counterparts. That's a death threat. The way that these systems have been set up to ensure that we do not succeed. Look, take a glance at the conversation that we're having with OPPD again about the coal plant.
Man,
knowing that's a death threat. Y'all are thinking about the direct, and I would take those threats less seriously than I would the systemic and those other, like the political, like the systematic threats that we're living under. I take those much more seriously. I was in 2020. I led a demonstration, Justice for James Scurlock. I received thousands of death threats from white supremacists, neo-Nazis. The FBI called me, and we had a meeting about credible threats to my life. I'm still here right now, but I might not live as long as white people because of the other kind of threats that we're living under to our health, to our care, to our mental health, to our well-being in all those different ways, to our interactions with police. Those are the real death threats. Those are the ones we have to take more seriously because those are the ones that impact all of us, no matter what. You might think it's scary to tell the truth. So would you rather live a lie? That's what we have to understand. Like, those are our options. There are only two. Either you're living the truth or you're living a lie. And you have to pick, and you have to understand what that means about you as a person and your character. And so you have to decide today, right now, what you're going to do and who you're going to be. And I think and once you decide, then your fear is gone. If you decide to tell the truth, then
Right.
you make that decision with an understanding that there's consequence, but you're living in a consequence already from lying, from living a lie.
Right.
So those aren't two separate things. If at the end of the day, if I'm going to die, I would much rather die as a truth teller than to live a lie. And I think it's really important that we get more truth tellers on our side, that we get more bold, because our power lies in our boldness. Our ancestry was bold. We didn't survive all these things to be quiet and to be tied down.
No.
We have to tell the truth. We have to get people to understand. Not only are we telling the truth, but we have to be persuasive. That's the one piece of this work that we're missing. People aren't trying to be persuasive anymore. They're not trying to bring people to an understanding. They're making a point and they make it loud and they leave it there and people engage with it how they want. No, bring somebody, change your
Right.
mind. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the work of truth tellers. That's the work of storytellers and journalists and reporters, that we're here to do a work that changes things. If you want to change things, your voice is going to be so important. And any young person that wants to understand how to do that effectively, there are so many great representations of that. But I would, little old me would love to help you formulate your plan for how you get engaged with this. When I was doing those demonstrations in 2020, we had a line that says your life work is the work that you'll do inside of this movement. You can bring all of that, the things you enjoy, the things you love to do, you can bring that to the movement. We need cooks, because when people are on the front lines, they're hungry. We need people that can take a narrative and help people understand what's engaging and honest and joyful about that. We need people that are healers. We need all that stuff that you're doing
All
for
of it.
that job. We need it over here in the movement.
Absolutely. And like Anthony said, fear leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to things that you fear the most. Miss Wanda said, fear not. Brother Harris, yeah, we did send the pictures in with those statements. And yeah, Miss Weston, we filed a DHS complaint, but the Nebraska General Attorney, I'll have to get with you to get that done. And then I just want to leave y'all with one other thing. And I showed y'all a couple of weeks ago with the sermons with Sherman. One thing about unity, okay? And in this picture here, you have law enforcement from Nebraska taking a picture with the FBI director, Kash Patel. Okay. And if you don't know, in Nebraska, in Omaha, we had this letter from our chief right here go to the Douglas County Sheriff saying that they were beefing, they had issues with each other, and they didn't like each other, basically saying that some of the stuff that the sheriff was doing was out of line with the police chief. But if you look at this picture, all of the places that they could have sat, they chose to sit right next to each other,
Legs touching.
Okay. So again, here we are having our disagreements in the community, but here they are putting aside, even if it was a fake WWE disagreement, they were able to put it aside and meet with the FBI director, Kash Patel, and then sit and smile for this picture. Okay. We have to be able to do the same thing. I'm not saying we all got to agree on everything, but while these people are putting their differences aside to be against us, we got to put our differences aside to protect us, to represent us, to be the fist for us. Okay. Because that letter that the chief wrote now means nothing after this picture we see here. Okay. It means absolutely nothing. Everybody, oh, the chief, this, and that. No, it don't mean nothing. Look at them. They're happy together. The song might as well be playing Happy Together. Look at them. They're not beefing. So either we are fooled by the WWE narrative or they actually working together. Okay. So again, we do love y'all. The mayor's office claimed they knew nothing about this meeting, and some in our own community are making excuses for the mayor. The meeting has still not been addressed. No, it hasn't. You're right. And so again, the unity piece that we talked about, we have to make sure that it happens, because again, without that part, we're just, left to be picked apart one at a time. Yeah. So yeah, we love y'all. Make sure you reach out to Jakeen, to me, if you have a loved one at the Omaha Nursing and Rehab Center. Be looking out for more stories from Jakeen. Be looking out with me with another sermon with Sherman. I do have somebody else that'll be coming on, I think, this following week to talk about this. It's a bill in Omaha, Nebraska, that's going to impact people with daycare and the daycare services, because right now we are facing man, a lot of insecurities, from food insecurities to money for our families and being able to even have a roof over our head. And now they about to hit us with the daycare stuff, where some of these people won't even be able to afford daycare because they're making it hard for you to have a job and saying, oh, you only can get daycare if you make this much money. But the amount of money that they saying we can make is not enough for the cost of living. It's ridiculous. So we'll be addressing that. And there, Miss Weston said that is part of the problem. Too many of us not willing to put our grievances aside. Man. The story of Omaha. And I know it's like that in other states. Like the sister said from Virginia, she can't get no help, and the NAACP there won't help her. I told her, unfortunately for me, the NAA stands for never assisting any colored people. Okay. So yeah, but we're gonna get out of here. It's 8:21. We started right on time at 7, so we gave y'all almost an hour and a half. And Brother Jakeen, you know you always welcome to come back anytime. I know there's so many comments, we didn't get to them all, but I do appreciate y'all, especially Instagram. I usually don't have it live on Instagram, but y'all really joined in today, and I appreciate it. People on YouTube, if you haven't already, go and like and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow that thing. But my Facebook people, y'all already there. Y'all already there. My Instagram is growing. I'm at about 8,000 now, so I appreciate that. And yeah, we just got to keep it moving. So peace, hair grease, love in the Middle East, and y'all have a blessed night. All right.